Hi, I'm Mackenzie.
Hey, I'm Denise, and welcome to the podcast From Rundown to Renewed. So far, through this Limitless series, we have covered quite a bit of ground. We're excited to jump in to this week's topic. And when we want to live a limitless life, we have to start inviting God into every area of our lives.
Mm.
It's all about having intimacy with him, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when we hear the word intimacy, we think physical, but that's not what this is about. Um, I heard someone once describe intimacy with God as into me see.
Mm.
So it's really all about laying our hearts bare at the feet of Jesus so that he can work in our lives and heal our hurts, clean up any junk, give us rest, all of that.
Yeah. Some of us have chosen to believe in the Lord.
Right.
We believe he died on the cross. You believe that he loves you, right? But you're not allowing him all the way in. You're holding back some areas of your life that maybe you don't want to confront. And can I just encourage you? I have been there.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to encourage you to bring him in to every single part of you that is coming up. And if it's a memory that is coming up that you don't want to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
it's your body's way of showing you that it's safe to process. And when you go to the Lord with your honest feelings and your raw heart and your deepest pains, he'll help transform those all throughout your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I was listening to a podcast earlier and she talked about triggers. And a lot of times when we are triggered, we think, oh no, something's wrong with me. This, it triggers show up differently for all of us, how they show up and how we feel in our bodies and our minds, all of that. But something that she said that I thought was really powerful and it gave a shift in perspective on triggers themselves was when triggers come up, it shows that like God trusts you with this now. Like you are in a place now that maybe you haven't been before, and you can now deal with this pain. You can now face it. You can lay it at God's feet and be honest with him about it. And I think a lot of times when we get triggered, we just want to pull back and we want to hide. I mean, none of us want to deal with our triggers or our pain.
Right.
I mean, it's uncomfortable,
Right.
absolutely. But I loved that perspective of you can be trusted with this now. Like God trusts you with this. And he, like to me, it's like his belief in you, like
Right.
of what you can handle
Handle.
now.
Mhm.
He's allowing that so that you can deal with it and you can process it with him.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole process is pretty draining, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we recommend that you also see a Christian therapist as you process whatever is coming up for you.
For sure.
And, sometimes you're going to get sick of crying. Sometimes you're just going to eat frozen meals steadily. But what if you have to be drained so that the Lord can fill you back up?
That's a word. Like I love that. And I'm sure we've all heard the quote, right? You can't pour from an empty cup.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And while we can all agree that that's true, like I would absolutely encourage you to examine like what or who are you turning to
Yeah.
fill your cup, right? Because there's a lot of things that we can turn to that are great in theory and they do help us, right? Like I like to work out or like watching like hey, I need a comfort movie or I need a comfort show, right? Like that's very real.
Mm-hmm.
Those things aren't bad, but is that it? Like are those the things, because those things are of this world and they're not going to completely take care of you in a way that taking these things to the Lord will, and allowing him to fill you up,
Yeah.
right? Because a lot of times these self-care tactics, like they help, but it's kind of like a band-aid over a gushing wound. There's, and only the Lord can really help you in these circumstances. And, you know, people are great and they can reassure you and they can uplift you, but eventually people are going to hurt you. So you can't rely on them for everything either.
Mm-hmm.
It's really all about turning to him
Mm-hmm.
to really fill you up because no one can fill you up like he does.
Right. Yeah, and when you look at God as your source, your cup will never run dry.
That's right.
In John 4:13-14, it says, Jesus answered, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. We have to remember that God is playing the long game here. He's not interested in the short term solutions. Everything that he does is done with excellence.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just requires us to be willing to undergo the whole process.
Yeah. And what a process that is. And when we invite him into every situation that we are facing, we are this is where that intimacy really comes in because we're being intentional and we're building our relationship with him. And you get to know your father because you spend intentional time in his presence, seeking his heart, right? He doesn't just want your best efforts, right? And he doesn't just want your struggles. I think sometimes we can fall on either side of the spectrum. We celebrate with him, and then when things are bad, we ignore him. Or when things are really bad, we go to him, and then when they're better, it's like, okay, thanks. He wants all of it. Like, he wants to celebrate with you. He wants you to, give him every raw emotion because he can handle it.
Right.
And that is, again, it's breaking down those walls and it's letting him in. And I think a lot of us, life has come at us faster than we can run. And we just unintentionally put up walls or intentionally. I mean, it could be either really,
Right.
but the Lord just wants to you to take a hammer and just start knocking that down because that's going to get you closer to him.
Yeah. If there's any unhealed places in you, there's no reason for shame either.
That's right. That's right.
It's an invitation for healing. Jesus came to bind up the brokenhearted, Isaiah 61:1 says. But you have to give him access.
Mm-hmm. And intimacy requires us being vulnerable. And if we want to live a limitless life, we have to start inviting him into a limitless amount of situations, of our situations, right? And when we're open and when we're willing to learn, watch out, because that's when, I mean, you're giving him full permission to just show up.
Right.
Which is very exciting.
Yeah. And you can't live limitless while carrying around old wounds. Today, I want to just encourage you to invite God to those spaces that are affecting you.
Yeah.
And those spaces, those things that you're holding on to, those affect every part of you. They affect the way that you love and the way that you lead, the whole way that you live. So invite him into those places. In Psalms 104, it says, enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. Gratitude is actually a simple act of shifting your focus, shifting your perspective. When we're able to shift into a heart posture of gratitude, we're demonstrating our trust in God. And sometimes we even have to express it before we feel it.
Yeah, amen to that. Yeah, absolutely. And I think another really big piece of this is we can't allow our feelings to guide us,
Mm.
right? They don't belong in the driver's seat. That's dangerous. Jesus belongs in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're letting our feelings take the wheel, we will most likely spend the bulk of our lives just spinning in circles
Yeah.
because feelings fluctuate, right? They're indicators, but they're not dictators. Like you can pay attention to them, but you don't have to be led by them, right? It's important to be aware, and it's important not to necessarily shame yourself too for how you feel,
Absolutely.
but they don't get to run. They don't get to run the show.
Yeah. My husband had a conference and they wanted to make it family friendly. So it was actually at a water park. So we all got to go and it was a fun experience. My husband was in these trainings and we got to go with some work friends. So we had a large group of people. My kids had friends, and there was one day my husband was in his training and my kids were all off with their friends. They didn't want to ride water slides with their mom anymore. And, I was lonely. And my thoughts that I was having because I felt lonely went back to those root lies of I am unlovable. And I took notice of these things and I was able to take my thoughts captive. And, this was an indicator to me that I was raising mature and independent children, which is what I want, right? Instead of making it about myself, of like how lonely and how nobody needs me and I'm so unlovable. And let those wounds continue to just bleed out onto everybody. So, once I was able to process and speak truth and life over myself, I was able to enjoy my time and it was great. And I was able to see that my kids are growing and maturing, and that's what I want. I don't want them sucker fish to me all the time.
Yeah. Mm. But it's hard when they grow.
It is hard.
It is.
It is.
It is. It's like good and hard. It's both.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. It can be both.
It's both for sure. And like on this topic of feelings, I've just been feeling a little heavier than normal lately. And I was on the phone with one of my good friends recently, and I remember telling her, like, I do not understand why I feel this way. I don't get it. Like, I genuinely don't understand. And she just so lovingly was like, Denise, being human is hard, and I'm not acting on my feelings, right? Like, they're just here and they're taking up space and they're heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so comforting to me in that moment because, I think we all need that validation sometimes that like I said earlier, like life just comes at you faster than you can run sometimes.
Right.
And again, like those feelings are indicators,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't have to dictate my life.
Right.
Like they can take up space and they can be messy and they can be hard, but I can also like take them to the Lord
Mm-hmm.
and say, okay, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I think that's really powerful because a lot of times I think we can struggle with perfectionism and just like, well, I have to clean everything up. And when you live limitless with the Lord, like you're with him on the mountaintops and you are with him in the valleys.
Mm-hmm.
And he is with you on your best days and he is with you on your worst days. And he understands, like Jesus was human too. He wept, he got angry, like he gets it.
Right.
And so he can also comfort you while continuing to point you back to him.
Mm.
But you can't have that comfort if you don't give it to him.
Right. Yeah. It's so important to shift your focus from the way things look
Yeah.
right now to what they can be once God is done with it.
Mm.
And this is where you're going to find that posture of gratitude, and you're going to find that it comes naturally and that the peace of God follows as a result.
Right. And thinking about gratitude and just I think sometimes gratitude just takes a lot of intentionality.
Yeah.
Especially like for me when things have been heavy, it's like, okay, you got to look for the light. Sometimes you just have to look for the good a little harder
Hmm.
because it's always there.
Right.
And so for me, I have a couple prompts that I like to do in the mornings to just kind of journal out. And one of them is just gratitude.
Hmm.
And what's helpful about that for me is I'll get to look back on the previous day because a lot of times I'm just like looking back on what happened, in the last 24 hours. And it's just this reminder that God's always with me and he's still working and he's with me. He's
Hmm.
with me. He's with my children. He's with my family. He's with my friends. Like he shows up in unimaginable ways, but you do have to look for it sometimes. I mean, you have to look for it a lot of times, you know? Um, but I'm telling you, when you look for it, you find it.
Oh, yeah.
You really do. And so when you're looking for God to just show up, you'll see it.
Yep.
You sure will.
Yeah. For me, I just recently adopted this. We're going to have a guest speaker come on in a couple weeks, and she taught me this. It's called a to-do list.
Ta-da!
And for that, you just ask yourself at the end of every day, where did I see fruit today? And this is gratitude and seeing God work. And it's just a great way to end the day because, again, you can always find it. No matter what kind of crappy day you had, you
Absolutely.
can always find it. And with my kids, we do something called High Low Buffalo. That's really fun. And they tell me their biggest high of the day, their lowest low, and a buffalo is something funny that happened. And this is a really great way to just spark conversations at bedtime, and they tell you things that you might not otherwise have known.
Mm-hmm. That's
Uh,
super fun.
so try that out with your kids. Try out the gratitude journal or the to-do list, and please report back to us and let us know
Absolutely.
how
Yeah.
those goes. But we want to change the posture of our hearts.
Right.
That's where the transformation is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some discussion questions. Number one, what feelings do you notice have kept coming up that may be in the driver's seat that shouldn't be?
Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, I've just been heavy, just been feeling heavier. And it just like, and when we were talking this out, I told Mackenzie, I said, there's a lot of good right now. And there's
Mhm.
so much that I'm grateful for, but it's kind of like these side stories are becoming the main story and they shouldn't be. But it's just, they're louder,
Yeah.
right? The pain of, just certain things or what have you, it's louder. And, there's that it might even be a Bible verse, but I know it's a song lyric for sure. But it talks about how like the pain that you feel now can't compare to the joy that's coming. And it's that shifting of of your focus and what Mackenzie just said earlier about, like seeing the bigger picture and seeing,
Right.
okay, this is what it is right now, but I believe in what God is doing, even if I
Mhm.
can't physically see it. And that's a beautiful thing. Sometimes that's heavy too, because you're like, but look at all of this and it looks horrible. But that isn't the whole story.
Right.
It's not. And when you can shift your perspective to say, you know what, right now, oh my heavens, this is rough, right?
Yeah.
And God is working, right? It's not a but, it's an and.
Mm.
And God is working.
Mhm.
That lifts some of that burden a little bit
Yeah.
because it's not the full story and you can deal with how you feel about it and seek truth in it.
Yeah.
It's both, right? And to remember that we're in a battle. We are in a spiritual battle here. I think heaviness is common for many of us, but we can surrender that heaviness to the Lord and we can pray and we can release it and we can trust that when you really surrender and you lay it at the Lord's feet, whew, he can do, that Ephesians 3:20 can do immeasurably more than anything you
Mhm.
could ever think, ask, or imagine. And I cling to that
Yeah.
when life is heavy. I cling to Ephesians 3:20 because he can and he does and he will.
Yep. Yeah, and for me, when we were talking about this, I was like, I actually haven't really had much emotions lately.
Mm.
I don't have many feelings, and uh we just made the realization right before we got on that it's probably because almost a year ago some very traumatic things happened in our life and my
Hmm.
body, your body also keeps record of
That's right.
trauma,
Body keeps the score.
and so that's probably why I have felt kind of emotionless. But I want to talk to those people that do feel emotionless because sometimes we shut off our emotions because we feel like they aren't safe or we're wrong for feeling certain things.
Right. Right.
So I just want to encourage you to ask God about those things to show you why those walls were ever put up in the first place
Hmm.
and ask him to slowly give you back emotions
Yeah.
because that's a real thing that happens.
Yeah. It's like Mackenzie's feeling very little to nothing, and I'm feeling everything.
There is space between.
Yeah. It's like, where's the middle ground? Can we find it, please?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So we're going through it with you.
Yeah, for sure.
We understand.
We are human.
Yeah. The second question is where have you seen fruit recently?
Mm. So, you know, just going along with this theme of feeling heavy, I've been in hard seasons enough to know that it's important that you continue to grow in the hard seasons,
Mhm.
right? And so I actually was looking up, I go to the library a lot, period, but even more in the summer because the kids, they're in summer reading program and we're going and picking up books. And so I was looking up this specific author, and the book that I wanted to read by her wasn't available at the library, but there was another one. And I thought, okay, like I don't really know how this applies to me, but I like love her and I haven't read this one of hers, so I'll pick this up. And oh my gosh, like I'm crying in the intro because she's hitting me right where I am. And it was so like my friend, right? It was so comforting. And the fruit of this is like one, I'm still challenging myself to grow, but I'm also like allowing myself to be comforted. And that's a really big deal because a lot of times I just kind of bypass. I don't, maybe not bypass comfort, but I don't maybe accept it willingly like I should. It's like, well, it's okay. Just like buck up. And it's like, no, Denise, like you don't have to buck up here. Like you can be comforted by these words. You can be comforted by your friends, and you can be like, and God can lead you closer and closer to Him. That's the point,
Yeah.
right? And I think the thing is like He loves me and He loves everyone listening to this just because you exist. Right? Like you could do literally nothing and he'd still love you. It's not based off of our performance. And I think a lot of us, we equate his love to what we do and
Yeah.
how we perform. And that's heavy too. That's way too much pressure. Like think about your kids, Like I was thinking about when I was kind of praying through this, I thought if my kid felt the way I felt and came to me, and I'm an imperfect person, but if my kid came to me with this, with all of this weight, would I be like, well, you just need to try harder? Well, you're failing. No, I'd like hug them and tell them I love them and sit with them and let them rest.
I'm wondering if like the heaviness is correlated with performance,
Could be.
even like for anyone else listening.
Yeah.
If you're feeling heavy,
Do you feel the need to be a certain way?
yeah,
Oh, yeah, that'll preach.
and you're putting that heaviness on yourself.
Well, and it's like, how good are we at putting on a face when our whole worlds are crashing?
Right.
And someone asks you, how's it going? I'm great. And you smile, and it's the fakest thing you've ever done. But that vulnerability, that's hard for, I mean, it's hard for me, but that's a hard thing for many of us,
Right.
because who is safe and who can I trust? And a lot of us have been burned
Yeah.
by being vulnerable. So there's a piece of that
Yeah.
too. Sit with that one for a bit.
I met with friends a couple days ago, and the one just seemed a little off, and I asked her if I could pray for her, and she said yes. And so I prayed for her, and then after I prayed for her, she said, that really meant a lot to me because I was just crying to my husband last night. She's very passionate about prayer and she loves praying for other people, but she was crying because she said, I don't feel like I have anyone praying for me. And I was just blessed to be used by God in that moment because the fruit to me is God used me to tell her, I hear you, I
Yeah.
see you, I'm
Mm.
going to give you what you need. And it was a great reminder for me that God does just that. And I probably needed that message as much as she did that day.
That's right.
So God is always moving and he's always healing. He's always performing miracles. He's always at work right now,
Hmm.
right here, right today.
That's right.
So if today's episode blessed you, share it with a friend or tag them in the show or on social media. You never know who needs to be reminded about having that intimacy that they can experience with God. And remember to give us a 5-star review.
Yes. And thank you to those that have.
Yes.
And our this podcast, when we started it, we just we had, okay, we're going to do a podcast, and it has expanded so much in the little over a year that we've been doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And we love guest speaking at conferences. We have a store with boxes and a peace journal, and our coaching is available. So if any of those things interest you, or someone that could use any of those resources, all the links for those things are in our description, and we would absolutely love to connect with you.
Mm-hmm. And if you are feeling run down,
There is space for you at our table.